Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro. It's time for a review of I'm Thinking of Ending Things, the new film from Charlie Kaufman. The first live-action feature since Synecdoche, New York. He just seems to be making masterpiece after masterpiece. He hasn't really been able to get back in the game in like a serious way because he's considered a flop director now. And so thank God for Netflix for funding this film, which would definitely be a box office risk. And this is going to be a spoiler-free review, by the way. We're not really going to talk about the plot. So a lot of these reviews online are just spoiling the movie left and right because they insist on just explaining half of the movie to you. What? YouTube reviews seem like the only place you can go where you don't actually have to hear spoilers. Another thing that needs to be said, because this is a review, this is not a movie for everybody. If you are not already like a Charlie Kaufman stan, or you just don't like movies that are confusing, weird, meant to be like interpreted, then you're not gonna like the movie. So the first time I watched this film, I felt dumbfounded. I did not understand what the hell that last 20 minutes. I really didn't. I felt like I was maybe a little on track in the first half, and then things weren't coming together for me. There are only a couple key details that you really need to know that when you watch it again, you will go, oh, you will understand. I literally cannot say much about this movie without getting into spoilers, but I will say that on the second viewing, I loved it. Kaufman really, truly did deliver. Every little fabric of this film is worth dissection. I'm telling you, this is a two-watch movie. I really don't think that you can watch it once and say that you have a fully formed opinion. Like, I really just don't believe that. The first time I watched it, I was confused, but mostly like very impressed with where he seems to be going as a director. This film was so like daring in a lot of ways, and I think narratively, like it's maybe his most mature work. It deviates a lot from his past films, I think. There's a huge upgrade with like the cinematography, which is thanks to Lucas Zoll, who did Cold War and Ida. It's just a movie that once you've seen it and you come away with like a sort of inkling, like maybe it's actually about something else, and you watch it the second time, you have a completely different watching experience. And so, you know, in a way, I would like to say that this is a 4-hour and 40-minute movie because it's mandatory that you watch this twice. And in between viewings, you know, we talked about the movie a lot and we read a little bit about it. I was surprisingly able to pull a lot of meaning out of this film. And so when I went back into it, I kind of had the framework for what this film is really about. And I absolutely loved it the second time. I have been thinking about it and mulling it over ever since I've seen it. It's been like a good 3 days where I feel like I have been, you know, wedded to this film in some way. It is on my mind like a good portion of the day, kind of like playing back scenes and conversations in it. I'm just really happy with what Charlie Kaufman is doing. This is just so promising for like what he can do in the future. I'm really hoping like these streaming platforms save him from box office failure and can maybe revive a Kaufman-assance. Charlie Kaufman's really playing with duration in this film. It immediately becomes apparent that you're watching like another kind of movie because of how long you're in the car with these two characters. A lot of people are gonna watch this movie and go, really? We're just in a car for the first 20 minutes? Really? And then we get back in the car later for another 20 minutes? Really? With scenes that are in the car for a long period of time, I still think there's a lot going on, a lot to digest. Discovering the relationship between the two characters, the atmosphere with the snow, the blizzard just coming down on the car, which is fucking beautifully captured by the cinematographer. Like the way that they shot these car scenes is unforgettable. And it is like thematically significant, you know, wiping away the blizzard. Like these things are all significant symbols. Rapid, fast dialogue in this movie that you will find yourself picking up on more and more things on repeat viewings. And for that reason, I also love that this is a Netflix movie. You can go back like 10 or 20 seconds. Oh, that seemed like an important line. Let me go back a little bit. Oh, let me pause. I actually took notes the second time I watched this film. If this came out in theaters, I would have just been like pissed off that I can't just go back to it. Because when I watched this movie the first time, I was kind of grappling with it. I was a little frustrated with it even. So first thing in the morning, I just watched it again. So this is a perfect film for the streaming platform. This is an incredibly dense movie in terms of just how much information you are getting. Every piece in the film is sort of significant in that it's painting a portrait of a life in a fascinating way. And what I find is at the core of this film is heartbreakingly sad and depressing. I also think it's a very empathetic portrait. There was a real emotional resonance the second time that I watched it, where you kind of realize what someone's life has amounted to. I found it to be brilliant. Jessie Buckley and Jesse Plemons, the two Jessies, both rising stars, fantastic. I mean, they both grow on you in repeat viewings, but I mean, Jesse Plemons, I think, really impresses. Like, the more you watch it, the more you see, like, really what he's doing with that performance. Jessie Buckley definitely has some immense talent. She just finds interesting ways to, like, deliver these long passages of dialogue that make it feel, like, really real and raw. Toni Collette and David Thewlis are both really fun to watch, and they also have, I think, scenes where they're, like, particularly excellent. They get a real chance to shine. Toni Collette and David Thewlis, you might kind of perceive their performances being like too over the top, too weird, wild, and kooky, but it's kind of the point because it's more like how their son kind of like views them. And the janitor is also really good with what he's given, and he's also really well cast. It was great that they didn't put in somebody that you'd recognize. The last 20 minutes or so of this film, it is completely like abstract and surreal. You could compare it to something like Annihilation, where the end is like, what is going on? Like, we just veered into a whole weirdness. Or like a 2001 A Space Odyssey sort of ending. And even the first time I watched the film, I was just like, oh my god, like, what the hell is this? But I liked it, even though I didn't quite understand why. I think if you like it and you don't understand why, that's when you need to go for the second watch. That was my reaction to Annihilation. And you were more frustrated with that movie than I was, and I was like, no, we're going to see it again. Like, honestly, like, people need to understand, it's okay to reserve judgment until you have more information about something. A lot of people jump the gun on that. And maybe I'm a hypocrite because I had an opinion on Tenet, and if I watched it again, I might like it a little bit more. But so be it. I didn't want to watch Tenet again. People might say that it's a completely abstract work of art. Like, I reject that in some way. Yeah. I think there is a very clear interpretation as to what is happening in the film. And when you have that interpretation, I don't think the film is going to play like it is as the first time, where everything's kind of abstract and up to interpretation, whatever you believe it to be. That being said, this is a film that you can watch multiple times and have a different takeaway every time you watch it because it's so dense. And my viewing of it evolved, like, the more that I thought about it, like, the more I grappled with it. I think there's points that will be emphasized to you on certain viewings, things that you'll pick up on that might resonate more. Whereas, like, last viewing, maybe this was like sort of the focus for you. On the second viewing, you really get a grasp of how it fits into his work as a director that he's done with Anomalisa and Synecdoche, New York, both films that are about a very subjective internal experience. And this movie speaks no less to the power of the subjective mind. His latest theme seems really to be like disappointment. He seems to be very much harping on that in his latest work. This film is completely about disappointment as well. And it's probably his most cynical movie he's ever made. I think it's his darkest movie. This is the film that seems to explore darkness in the most unredemptive way. Whereas in Synecdoche, New York and Anomalisa, you can kind of see where these characters are making mistakes or just thinking about things in a way that you don't want to imitate, and therefore, like, you could potentially lead a better life than them. I don't think this film makes really any effort to assuage your existential fears, and I like that it indulges in that. It has, like, so much to say about the inner workings of, like, the mind, I think, that it makes up for its cynical nature. And I, too, would not really be happy about a movie that is just like, well, life, you know, sucks, depressing, you're gonna die, like, all that shit. Like, I don't want a movie that's just only that. I mean, this is definitely that. It is that, but it is so much more that it's worth it to be that. In terms of Oscars, no. Look, I would love to see this get adapted screenplay. I'd love to see it get cinematography. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not makeup, not nothing. There is makeup. It's weird. It's not going to happen. Annihilation should have gotten Oscar nominations. Didn't get Oscar nominations. Too weird. No one knew what to make of it. Uncut Gems didn't get any nominations. Look, there are such things as goose eggs, okay? We have a goose egg here. It's not going to get... You can have deserving performances or aspects of a film, but if this is not the Oscar voters' cup of tea, there ain't going to be no nominations. And it is also definitely his most polarizing movie. It has a better score than Synecdoche, New York, though. Not on IMDb. It has a 7 and it's dropping fast, buddy. Well, in terms of critics. Yeah, critics. And also, Synecdoche, New York had a lot of time for the rating to go up. And I think that this movie, too, will go up over time because you can only watch it more and you can only like it more when you watch it more. I love this film. I think it's like worth repeat viewings, worth dissecting and analyzing. I love it, and it's going to 10 out of 10. It's favorite movie of the year so far, and will easily be like a top 3 movie of the year. I would probably say it's one of my favorite movies. I mean, I don't know how long the list of favorite movies is. Maybe it's 50. I don't know. There can be a lot of movies on there. It's not like 10. It's not 5. But this is one of my favorite movies, I think. And I'm definitely going to 10 out of 10 on this one. And if you have seen the movie already, and it's the day after this has been uploaded, then you gotta go watch our analysis. We want to talk more about it, and we want to share more things. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. What are you thinking of ending?